Hello and welcome to another episode of the Simply PHP Unscripted podcast. I'm so happy to be back, but I have a really interesting episode today. We're going to be focusing on interviews, specifically remote tips. So if you are wanting to get a job in development, if you wanted to hire somebody, this is going to be an episode you for sure want to listen to. And it's not going to be me giving these wonderful tips, although I could give a few. It's going to be our vibe manager, Steve. So he's with me today and he's ready to go. So without further ado, let's get started.
Good. So this episode is really more of an update because we did the interview tips previously, pre-pandemic. It really wasn't remote focused. So we're going to update these tips to really kind of focus more on how to do successful remote interviews. Of course, some of the stuff is going to be like common sense or seem like common sense, but you'll be surprised at how many times I've seen the opposite during the interviews. And while it doesn't particularly weigh 100% in my decisions, sometimes it has a subliminal effect, and it is important that you listen to these tips and try to follow them as best as possible if you really want to make show yourself in the best light possible for a position.
Yeah, you think sometimes that it might be in common sense, but really all we're trying to do is help our person, a developer, someone trying to land a job remotely. And this is just an interview because it's now so common because of COVID that this is just coming at the best time. So Steve, what is the first kind of tip? Where do you want to lead us in this conversation?
Well, first thing is always the communication. So the first thing that will happen before you start a remote interview is the email that comes that says, hey, let's meet over Zoom, 15 minutes or whatever the interview process is for whatever company. For us, it's a 15-minute introduction interview where we actually mostly introduce the company to the candidate. Now, with that email, what's super important is that when somebody asks you to meet with them, is one, respond as quick as possible. The quicker you respond, the more likely you will have an opportunity to continue on the recruitment process because you're one of the first people in. Second, and this is super important, is even if you are responding quickly, make sure that you schedule the appropriate amount of time for yourself where you can fully commit to the interview.
What were some of the examples you're sharing before we hit record? Because I gotta say it's true though. It's good to give it like real life examples of what do you mean by, I understand the response thing. That's pretty, self-explanatory. You need to respond as soon as you can, respecting the person on the other end, and you'll be on the top of the pile. But the second tip, right, around time management, any examples of like someone's done something in the past?
Yeah, for sure. So if I ask someone to meet with me at 11 a.m. and you have a dentist appointment at 9 a.m., perhaps you should ask to meet the next day, not right after the dentist appointment, and maybe you're all shot up with different drugs and
oh no,
you might have trouble communicating and speaking because your mouth might be frozen. There could be a lot of different things going on. Maybe also you don't want to be having lunch while you're doing the interview. If you're hungry, make sure you eat before the interview, not during the interview. This I haven't seen, but just kind of like as an example, you want to make sure that, you don't have deliveries expected, or you're doing renovations in the house. You don't have people coming over to do those renovations as you're trying to do the interview. So it's really important to kind of schedule a block of time that 100% that you'll give full focus to the interview and not be distracted or distract the interviewer during the meeting.
Now with renovations, I just have a question. If let's say you can't go around that, right? what is the best way to communicate that message? Like, is it just to be honest with you? Like, hey, listen, like, I know that there's construction. I'm very sorry. You know, I can't get around it. Like, what's the best kind of way to
That's
to
it, exactly.
that?
You give the heads up to say, oh, sorry, I'm expecting a delivery. And then if the bell rings and then they got to get up for a minute and a half to go open the door, that's not the end of the world. But the key is communicating that and letting the interviewer know, like, hey, like, this event might happen during the interview. But like I mentioned before, I always appreciate it when the person comes back to me with a different time that I propose, knowing that they're going to have their full attention. If I propose a time and we meet at that certain time, and then during the interview I find they're too busy, I feel like, how's this person going to work with clients? How's this person going to work with even me or internally in the company if they have a hard time just coming to a simple meeting?
Now, that's a good point. You know, it's like there's so many things that we don't realize being on the other side, that you're looking at all these things, not just like how they present themselves, but were they on time? Were they responsive? It's really meticulous, but it's good, right? Because you're assessing whether they're going to be a fit for us at Simply PHP or for whatever company you're hiring for, right?
Yeah, well,
so it's good tips.
Yeah, well, once again, it's all about communicating. So if you let me know that, hey, I'm going to be 5 minutes late, no problem. Hey, I'm having technical issues. Once again, no problem. But
and we all know we've had those technical issues, and oh my God, I've been in interviews too where it's like you're sweating by the time you get there because it's something, the Wi-Fi went down or something happened, you know, but you can get that message to them.
That's it. Always have a backup plan. Most phones nowadays are capable of doing video calls. So if your computer or your laptop or your internet doesn't work, make sure that you have a phone preloaded with Zoom or Teams or whatever software that the company is using for interviews. Have it preloaded, ready to go as backup. Worst case, you can ask them to call you and do a regular phone interview. That's fine too. So in the first call, it's not the end of the world because it's just kind of like an introduction, but definitely make sure you sort those issues out for the second call. But it does help make the interviewer's decision a lot easier when you can easily speak with the person, see the person, talk with the person.
I was just thinking, it's just like anything in any meeting, you always set the right expectations, right? You're communicating what's going to happen from both ends. The interviewee is going to be sitting there and the interviewer who's going to be giving the questions. They have to set the right expectations for that call. Hey, is this 15 minutes? This is my purpose. Any other questions or anything you want to get out of it, right? So yeah, this is good tips. Anything else?
Obviously, like, try to test your equipment before doing any type of interview. Doing the troubleshooting during the interview is never fun for the interviewer. I've seen it plenty of times, and I have the patience for it. And I always want to get the best person possible for the job. So these type of things I can overlook. However, once again, if you want to put your best foot forward and really kind of give the best image of yourself possible, all these things go seamlessly, and it leaves a smile on my face when I get a seamless interview. Yeah.
And speaking about equipment, you know, making sure that you troubleshoot and stuff, is there any recommendations you have for, you know, remote interviews, specifically video? We're talking about video calls, right? So any specific equipment you might recommend, or, you know, talking about quality, presenting your best self, anything you would suggest?
Yeah, absolutely. So first thing I would suggest is get yourself a good webcam. Some people have nice webcams attached to their laptop, others not so much. Microphone's not always necessary. It can help. Bluetooth, wireless, earpods are the worst. For some reason, they never connect.
Yeah, they never do. I always try, but they just always fail.
Yeah, so it's the amount of times I see people try to use them for the interviews and not work. Potentially, if it's connected to your phone, I think it might work a little bit better, but trying to do it to the laptop or a computer, 9 times out of 10, it's the earpods.
Even my MacBook, it doesn't like, it's not as good as like connecting to my iPhone. So yeah.
So if you are looking for a new job, I would suggest getting one of these. This is a $40 Logitech 720p, I think it's C310. And it's a great little camera. The microphone on it's great. The video quality is okay. We actually have one set up right now that we can check out.
This one.
Yeah, that one right there. So we'll go through the other camera options in a minute, but
so not too bad. This is not too bad. Right now we have a lot of lighting because we're in a podcast studio. You wouldn't use this much light, but this is a really good webcam. I've used this webcam for a long time. It's
they're
like,
reliable.
How much is it?
$40 on Amazon.
Yeah, so you can't go wrong with this thing right here. $40 on Amazon. What's kind of like a really bad example?
So we have an older webcam, and once again, sometimes these are just attached to laptops. So I'm going to show you what it looks like with an older like potato webcam here. Like this thing, like when I see someone trying to talk to me in super low resolution, once again, I'm always trying to find the best person for the position. So regardless of the quality of their webcam, they'll always be considered. However, if I see someone in this quality
or this quality.
Yeah, even this quality here, which we'll go through in a minute. This is also a very high quality option. This is coming from your phone, right, Cawley?
Yep. This is my cell phone that's facing Steve, and it's a free app that I can post right here, or you'll see in the description. It's absolutely free, pretty reliable. It's plugged in with my Apple cord to the computer. You download the software, works for Mac and Windows. I'm sure Linux as well. And yeah, it's free, which is the best part. And it's just using the native phone camera on your cell phone, which nowadays is like really, really high quality, right? So let's show that again. I mean, this is a camera that you see on Steve, professional camera, and then this is the cell phone. So I mean, it's pretty good. I
think this is fantastic. Like once again, if I saw a candidate with that quality, the same smile I get on my face when we can connect and see each other, hear each other right off the bat. This also leaves me with a good impression of the candidate. Just seeing that they have high quality equipment and they're able to represent themselves. Because with us, especially with Simply PHP, we work with a lot of clients, and you'll be representing our brand. So knowing that you can represent yourself gives me confidence that you can represent our brand. Mm-hmm. And this goes, I'm sure, with many other companies as well. So just another reason why before you start doing interviews, invest in, like, you can make a minimal investment of nothing with your phone.
We'll show it again like that.
If you want kind of a bit more of a foolproof, you don't want to play with apps or anything, this $40 webcam.
Oh, that's the wrong one. Sorry. This one right here.
Yeah.
That's this one.
Exactly.
Again, forget the lighting because I got way too much lighting for this camera, but a simple light, this would look really, really good.
Under natural room light. These are fantastic. I've been using them. Most of the people in the company use them, and they never any problems. The microphone works great on them. Really great solution if you're looking for a low cost tool specifically for interviews. But after, when you get the job, then hey, you have something you can work with as well. Mm-hmm. But stay away from lower quality ones, especially ones with sound problems. That's the other thing. Like it's very distracting during an interview if your sound is off, especially if it's just distortion. So that's another thing to really kind of look out for. Now, some other really low cost tips is make sure your backgrounds are nice. Adding some plants to the background makes a huge difference, whether they're real or not.
Yeah, that's honestly, it just goes to show how much you care, right? At the end of the day, if I show up in PJs with a terrible camera and not a good mic, you can't hear me, you're not going to get a second call, right?
Well, but you may. It depends. So it's one of those things, though, you leave a better impression on me if you show up well dressed, not necessarily well dressed, like even like just a clean t-shirt
it's not a suit or tie kind of place anyways, right?
So. No, that's exactly it. So once again, like dress, as long as your clothes are clean and they're not super old and it looks like it was your gym t-shirt from middle school gym class, then yeah, there's not and once again, these are all superficial things that won't necessarily impact the decisions directly, but subconsciously it does make a difference. It's all about the impression you leave on people. So that's why your background is important too. Having a mess in your background, like a messy bed or like empty food containers, these type of things can really make a strong opinion about yourself and how you live your life, and whether a company wants to take on somebody who has these type of simple maintenance issues. So the other thing too is you can kind of broadcast a little bit about yourself as well with your background. So not like, I gave the example of plants. Plants are nice, and if something's subliminally that showing people that you have that sort of aesthetic that you and you care about things, you care about life. You have to nurture a plant to keep it alive. So things like plants are great, but other things too, like maybe some of your hobbies, for example, like guitars in the background. That's always cool to see. Maybe you're a big movie buff. Maybe you have some movie posters. Maybe you are a gamer. Maybe you have a collection of vintage retro gaming consoles in your background. Whatever it is in your background that you want to broadcast to other people, that can help, and also bring on the conversation a little bit more, because it is important during these interviews. This is another good tip, is to let the interviewers know a little bit about yourself. So we're hiring people not just to work, but to work with. And when you're working with people, you want to work with interesting people. You want to work with fun people. You want to work with nice people.
Not jerks.
No, of course not. So if you just answer the questions that are given to you, yes and no, and you don't really open up a little bit more about yourself, it can, once again, it won't make the decision, but it will make the decision easier when you do open up about your life, your hobbies, your interests a little bit more. Usually there's somewhere that type of question is asked, but if you can kind of work it into the conversation, go right ahead. And I think that's another very important tip, especially with remote staff, is to let the interviewers know what you do outside of work. Know what your passions are, your interests are, what your hobbies are. Of course, if you want to keep that type of thing personal as possible, you can still get a job. Yeah, you can still go through the interview process and still get a job.
But they're going to ask you those questions,
Yeah, for sure. And once again, though, these are all things to help improve outside of your skill set and your technical knowledge of the position. So these type of things like experience, your skill set, your technical knowledge, they're all the most important factors, and you have to have these factors before doing an interview to really get selected. So these things are a given. Now, what I'm talking about here are tips to enhance your image, enhance your brand, and really give a good lasting impression on the people you talk with.
I like when you said your brand, because really what a brand is, coming from the marketing world, is your reputation, right? So if you're someone and you're interviewing and you're going against all these other brands, other reputations of other people, you want to make sure you put your best self forward, because chances are someone is going to have the same qualifications or very similar to you. No, they're not going to be as unique as you, but you have to show that side in order to be unique, in order to show what your brand is. And so I love that you said that, like, all those small things add up to make you more memorable than the person who left, a messy bed in the background, didn't wear a clean shirt, doesn't have to be fancy, but clean, all those small things, didn't invest in the right equipment, equipment so you can communicate properly. All those small things add up. And I'm a true believer of it. And it's funny, when I went to school, we actually had a class dedicated just to interviewing at my school. So they taught us a lot of these things.
That's the whole thing. And now with the prevalence of remote work, a lot of those things still hold true, but you might be interviewing in your bedroom. That might be your workspace.
Most likely, yeah.
So for the interview, instead of perhaps maybe your desk is facing a window that's with your bed in the background, maybe move the desk into a corner. It may not be the most comfortable place to work, but it should be fine for a 30-minute interview. So you have the wall against your back, because a white wall or just a solid colored wall is always a lot better than a messy bed. That's
true. Or a digital background, that's pretty popular nowadays. You can get that on Zoom, or I think Google Hangouts has it. Like almost any video conference has it,
For me personally, I get a good kick out of the digital backgrounds. I find them funny, but I can also find them a little distracting too, a little bit.
Well, it can't be explosions in the background. It has to be.
But some of the issues though is sometimes like you notice like the flickering on the seat, or once again, that might be my own personal preference, but it's still better option than sometimes the background in general. And it can make for a good laugh at the beginning of an interview too. So that's it doesn't hurt, but and it could be better option for sure than if your workplace is a little unkept. So
yeah, and everything you're suggesting is not like crazy. You're not going.
None of this is groundbreaking.
It's 5 minutes, maybe cleaning or repositioning. 15 minutes to test. Like it's just taking an extra hour before the interview to prepare. I think that's what it really is be prepared, whether that's, for the questions, of course, we all know that, but also how you are presented. Yeah. And that's everything, because it is remote, most likely in your bedroom. You are presenting now your life, your home life. So it has to look good. Yeah.
Now, these are all tips for people that are working at home. Some people currently aren't working at home, are trying to get out of the office, trying to get that remote job, and they need to do these remote interviews too. But how do you do a interview for a remote position while you're currently working in an office?
That's tricky.
Yes.
Okay. Are you going to share some light on how to do that?
Yes, absolutely. So best thing you can do is just sit in your car, get a good cell phone stand to attach to your car. Once again, very cheap on Amazon.
That's like $10-15 max.
Yeah, exactly. Get a good earphone microphone combo. A lot of them come with the phones to begin with, so that shouldn't be too hard to find. And do the interview in your car. If you don't have a car, just find somewhere. Try to find somewhere quiet, where maybe a coffee shop or anywhere that you can. There's not going to be too much distractions, or like. One of the things that could be very distracting is when someone's just holding the phone in their hand, because it starts shaking. Also, you can hear background noises. And once again, if it comes down to it and that's the only time you have to be able to do it, it's acceptable, but it can be distracting and won't leave the best impression. And the point of these tips here is to be able to leave the best impression possible.
Now that's a good suggestion, because I don't know about you, but in any interview setting, normally you're a little nervous and your hands go like this a little bit. I think we all can relate. So having a stand, having just a quiet place, and again, you just communicate that, hey, I'm on my lunch break, I'm just in my car, hope that's okay.
Once again, you let people know what the situation is, and generally things go smoothly after that. And the interviewer's impression of you is they will understand your situation, and they can work with it.
Anything else you want to share for remote interview kind of advice, tips, or anything like that?
Once again, it's all about your environment. Try to make sure there's no one else walking around, or even animals. It's kind of cool to see an animal here and there, but sometimes they can be distracting, especially if they're making noise. If it's quietly on your lap and sleeping or something like that, it's not too big of a deal. But or sleeping in the background is fine. That's actually kind of cool. Is once again, it's like bringing up your hobbies and interests and stuff. But if you have the type of animal that is constantly making noise, that could be a bit of an issue. On top of that, if you are stuck in a situation where you know there's going to be a lot of noise in the background, mute your mic. If the interviewer has to ask you to mute the mic, things aren't going well.
Oh, yeah. That's so, it sounds so simple, but so many people don't mute their mic. Oh man, this is good. This is a good tactical advice. Is there anything else you want to say? We're about 27 minutes in. Anything else?
No, I think that's it. Honestly, once you have all of your tech sorted out, you have a nice background, you make sure you give a good amount of time and focus to the interview. You communicate with your interviewer if there's any issues. If you follow all those things, the interview should go smoothly. You'll leave a good impression of yourself, and you'll give yourself the best chance to land a job.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Steve. And what I'll do is link up our old video for the interview tips, which we might update again because it was filmed a while ago, but we'll link that up so you can get 10 tips on how you can just, in general interview, just get by it, get through it. And then coupled with this, you're going to be really, really set for your next remote interview. This is awesome. Thank you so much, Steve.
You're welcome, Kyler. Yep, that's it for today.
All right. We are signing off. Take care.